Hello and welcome to this course on Adobe Dreamweaver CS6. My name is Toby and I'll be your instructor on this course. In this first section I'm going to introduce you to Adobe Dreamweaver, talk a little bit about the history of Dreamweaver and give you some outline of how the course is organized. So let's get started. Now the first thing I'd like to explain is that this is not an upgrade course. I am assuming no prior knowledge of Dreamweaver at all. On this course we're going to start right at the basics and get up to a pretty good level of knowledge of both the use and the understanding of what you're doing in Dreamweaver, that you can produce good websites with good functionality. If you have some knowledge of Dreamweaver, and even if you have some knowledge of another web authoring tool, you may find certain sections of this course either add little to what you already know, or maybe you can just cover them pretty quickly. Let me give you a very specific example of that. You may well have heard of HTML. You may be a very advanced user of HTML, and there's a whole section of this course on HTML. If you're very familiar with it, you may find that section of the course is one that you can either work through very quickly, or maybe you can even skip it without really losing out on anything. The structure of the course is such that I'm going to explain as we go along what's coming next, and you should be able to work out if there are any sections that you can skip through or skip over altogether. The next thing to look at is the version of Dreamweaver, CS6, that this course is about. Now I'll talk about CS in just a moment. Think of it, CS6, as the last in a sequence of versions. And if you look on the adobe.com website, in there you will find a buying guide to Adobe Dreamweaver CS6, and within that a version comparison, which in tabular form shows you the features that have been introduced in the recent versions of Dreamweaver. The new version, CS6, as we see, has these four major new features, the four that are marked here with the check marks. Now these four major features are not the only new features in CS6, but they're certainly the most significant ones. Before that we had CS 5.5 also with new features, before that CS5 which had new features, and so on right back here to CS3. Now in fact there were several versions of Dreamweaver before CS3, and if you have used one of those earlier versions before CS3, then what has changed since then is probably so considerable that Dreamweaver would look almost like a different product to you now. If you've used 5 or 5.5, then the upgrade to CS6 is not that dramatic, and some of the sections on this course, particularly to do with the fluid grid layout and CSS3 transitions, are probably the main things you need to see in order to get up to speed on the new version. If you only have experience of a version earlier than CS5, CS4 may be okay, CS3 or earlier, you probably need to work through the course quite systematically to make sure that you cover all of the new features. Now, one of the things to mention alongside the versions is that one of the things that's changed in CS6 is that if you want to upgrade from an earlier version, you can now only upgrade via the adobe.com website. The upgrade options are not available for purchase directly from retailers. Now, whether that situation will change over time, I don't know. But at the moment, if you want to upgrade from an earlier version, you need to do it via the adobe.com website, and right next to version comparison there is an upgrade tab here which gives you access to the upgrade. Obviously the pricing may change over time. There's a price here to upgrade from 5.5 and then a different price to upgrade from 3, 4 or 5. Now one thing to consider if you haven't yet got Dreamweaver CS6 and maybe you have an option of upgrading from an earlier version, is that you can get Dreamweaver now on subscription. There are a number of options here. One of them is to go for a straightforward subscription to the CS editions. I'll come back to CS again in a moment. and this means you pay basically a monthly fee to use the software, and then you get new versions and upgrades automatically as part of that subscription. Obviously over time this may be a more expensive option, but it does have the option that you know exactly how much you need to spend each month or each year, and that you will always be able to get the latest version when it's available. There is also now the option of what's called Adobe Creative Cloud, where you can subscribe to a cloud-based version of the CS6 tools. Now, information about CS subscription editions and information about Creative Cloud options are also available on the adobe.com website. So let's look at what CS means. CS stands for Creative Suite, and the products within Adobe Creative Suite are packaged in a number of different collections. Now, if we go to the section Product Comparison for CS6, we can see that the collections are Design Standard, Design and Web Premium, Production Premium, Master Collection and Creative Cloud. Now, the first four are all available for purchase or on a monthly subscription basis. The last one, Creative Cloud, is only available on a subscription basis. And if you go down to the Dreamweaver row here, you'll see that Dreamweaver is part of Design and Web Premium or part of Master Collection. Now, if in fact apart from Dreamweaver you really need Flash Builder, Flash Professional, Acrobat Pro, InDesign, Illustrator, Photoshop Extended and a couple of other products, you will probably find that the cost overall is more advantageous if you buy the Master Collection. If you already have Master Collection in an earlier version, then you can probably upgrade via the Adobe website as well. Similarly for Design and Web Premium, if you have an earlier version you can upgrade, or you can buy all of the products that are ticked here, and there are a couple below that I haven't shown, there we are, that you can get for that all-inclusive price. So again, buying one of the collections as part of Adobe Creative Suite is sometimes a good option as well. Now, while we're talking about versions, let's just mention one other very important point. This course is being run on a Windows PC. Now, of course, the features within Dreamweaver CS6 are basically the same from a functional point of view on a Windows PC as they are on a Mac. But it's not really feasible on a course like this to do everything twice, to do it once on a PC, once on a Mac. It can get confusing for everybody. So we're only doing all of this on a Windows PC. Having said that, if you're using a Mac, then you almost certainly know the major differences between a Windows PC and a Mac in terms of how to use a Windows application. They are the differences that you're looking at. Functionally, there are very few differences between Dreamweaver on the two platforms, other than how you actually use it in the normal way that you have a difference between how you use a Windows PC and how you use a Mac. So we're using Windows PC here. Again, as part of the Dreamweaver CS6 part of the Adobe site, we have a set of system requirements for Windows, a set of system requirements for Mac. So if you want to just make sure that your Mac or your Windows PC are up to running Dreamweaver, that's the place to check it out. And if you're still not convinced about which version to get and whether you really like Dreamweaver or not, there is a good option, and that is to get a trial version of Dreamweaver CS6. This is available via the Adobe website. On the right here in the Dreamweaver CS6 section, if you click on Try, it takes you to a part of the site where you can register for a trial version. The trial at the time of recording this normally is a 30-day trial. It's completely free and you get a completely functional version of Dreamweaver. So you don't have anything disabled, you don't have watermarks on what you produce or anything like that. So it's a good trial, it's a good way of actually trying Dreamweaver out for yourself. And then if after 30 days you like it, you can either subscribe via Adobe, or of course you can buy one from your local PC shop or online from your favorite online retailer. Now, if you're completely new to Dreamweaver, it really won't mean a lot if I tell you now what is new in CS6, because you wouldn't know what was new in CS 5.5 or CS5 or any other version. It's all content. But if you are upgrading, say from 5.5 or for an earlier version, there is a section here under Dreamweaver CS6 features on the Adobe website that tells you the main features that are new in CS6. So for instance, there's a section on the fluid grid layout, section on improved FTP performance, updated live view, CSS3 transitions, and various other features. Now most, but not quite all of these features are going to be covered on the course. So if you're doing the whole course from the beginning, which I hope you will be, you'll come across virtually all of this anyway. But if you're upgrading and you want a bit of a resume of what's new first, then that's a good place to look. So the starting point for this course is that you have got a copy of Adobe Dreamweaver CS6 and that you have installed it. Now, I'm not going to cover installation on this course. There's plenty of documentation on the Adobe website and in fact accompanying your version of Dreamweaver CS6 to tell you how to install it or to upgrade from an earlier version. And for me to go through that again would really just be a bit of a waste of our time, because of course there are various options that you need to understand and there's various help facilities available from Adobe to help you with your installation. I'm going to assume that you've got a successful installation of Dreamweaver CS6. And let's now look at what you will see when you have successfully installed Dreamweaver CS6. Now this potentially quite confusing opening screen here is really called the welcome screen, or at least this section in it is called. Many people choose not to use the welcome screen. I'm going to keep it in use for now, and one of the reasons is it'll give us some access to videos about some of the top features of CS6, including some of the new features, and also because I find it quite a useful place to start, particularly working on a new project. Now, assuming that you've got your Dreamweaver CS6 welcome screen and you're ready to start, we're actually going to start work for real in the next section. And I'd like to finish this section by just introducing you to the main piece of work that I'm going to be doing, at least on the early part of the course. I'm going to develop a website, and I'm going to develop a website for a nature park. Very small, straightforward, simple nature park. The website will have a few pages with a few of the key features, such as images, tabular information, information for people about how to find the park, and so on. I suggest that you choose a subject for a website yourself. You could of course use the same subject that I'm using. You could choose a subject, perhaps one that's of particular interest to you. Perhaps you already know of a website that you need to develop and you've bought Adobe Dreamweaver CS6 in order to develop that website, and maybe you want to make a start on it as we do the course. That would be absolutely fine as well. But whatever you choose to do, make sure you've got at least one, maybe even a couple of websites that you can work on as we work our way through the course. Now, some of the features on the course may not immediately strike you as being useful to you, but even if they don't, try to put something on your website that uses those features, because it really is the best way to remember how to do all the things in Adobe Dreamweaver. Dreamweaver in the CS6 version is a very, very complex, big product. I'm going to introduce it to you piece by piece, hopefully in a way that makes it easy to understand and assimilate information, but there's a lot to learn, and the more you can practice what we learn as we go along, the more you'll find you retain, and the more you both enjoy what you're doing and understand what you're doing. So in the next section we're going to get started on building a website. I'll see you then.